Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:12. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I want to add one thing under new business. We have to have a conversation about our annual report. And if nobody else has anything, I just want to take a couple seconds and Chris Medina. I thought that was Matt Martin. No, Matt Martin's next to Chris. Okay. I think it worked out really good last week. So if you have a comment, you want to make a comment or a question or something, if you make sure your video's on and you come to the forefront of the up top so we can see. You can also, Matt is going to be my chat guy, and he's going to let me know if anybody has any questions. And I think right now we're pretty manageable. I think we only got one page of people. And so, but Mark also had another comment too that for Matt, I think, and maybe Bill, that a lot of times we don't get everybody who's on, who's trying to watch and stuff. And so, Mark, you said that if Matt or whoever's running the meeting doesn't let them in until they have to sign in, so we just make sure we get the names.
So the waiting room can be set up so that when somebody joins the meeting, they're put into the waiting room and then they have to be let into the meeting itself. That has two advantages. One, it reduces the chance of being Zoom bombed, and two, it gives whomever is running the meeting a chance to put the correct name of the person if they have iPad listed or just their initials, so that we have the name for the record.
Is that good, Matt? Are you?
Yeah, the other way to do it would be to just kind of watch the list, I guess. I don't know, if you enable the waiting room, is it no longer an open meeting? Are there any issues around that anybody can imagine?
I would think so, but I'd ask that would go to Bill and Rick. What do you guys think?
You can have an open meeting as long as you let the people in from the waiting room. If you think of it,
Yes.
Think of it like a building, right? I mean, if you're not letting them in the building, how open is that meeting?
Where did Rick go? Are you good with that, Rick?
I'm fine with that.
Anybody on the board have an issue with that? Chris, you moved. You're way down the bottom now.
I have no idea where I am. I feel like I keep moving all over the place.
I know, everybody's moving.
Kate's moving back and forth.
Oh, she's getting ready to strangle somebody. That could be me. Okay. Oh, I think, though, the last meeting went well. I think Peter had a little better time with the minutes, so let's just try to keep that etiquette, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. Members of the public, I see a whole bunch of people. Does anybody have any from members of the public? Okay. Review and approve the September 14th, 2020 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of Monday, September 14th.
Thank you, Mark. Have a second?
Kate seconds.
Okay, so Mark moved to approve the minutes. Kate seconded it. Peter, are you all good to move forward? Is there any discussion?
Yep.
Go ahead, Mark.
Under new business principals report, the paragraph that starts, Mr. Martin reported 72 new in-person students. I don't think new is supposed to be there. Otherwise, the school would have 180 some odd kids.
Mr. Martin's a very optimistic person. Leave him be. Any other thing, Mark? Are you all set?
I can correct that.
Thank you, Peter. Kate, you have, you seconded, you get second.
No discussion.
Okay, if there's no discussion from anybody, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Laura? Laura?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I'd say the ayes have it. The ayes have it, so it's affirmative vote by unanimous. Correspondence, I didn't have any unless I missed something. I don't go to school to look in the box anymore. Matt, is there any correspondence in our box at the school?
There's no more box at the school, Rich. They're at the central office.
Oh, I feel really sad. Tammy, is Tammy with us tonight? There you are, Tammy. Anything from you for correspondence?
There's none from Wardsboro.
Okay. That was easy. Old business, ventilation system update. I know Chris Medina is here to tell us about his new baby, maybe?
Absolutely. So this past Friday, on the 18th, Alliance Mechanical was out at Wardsboro to finish up the rest of the airflow testing and to service a few of the units that they didn't get to on their last visit. This afternoon, we received the isolation room CFM calculation from CX Associates. And then earlier this evening, we also received for Wardsboro the finalized airflow testing results in a spreadsheet. I'm going to share the ones I got from them last week that cover the majority of the rooms, at least the classrooms that we can be concerned about, and we can take a look at those numbers. So to summarize for Wardsboro, up to this point, they have completed their phase 1, which is the PM servicing, and phase 2, which was the air testing. And I'll talk about Dover after we get through Wardsboro. So I am going to share my screen here. Or if I can get access to share my screen, we can take a look at those numbers.
If you can't share, Chris, you can just tell us about it.
Yeah, I can. So I will just summarize. So they
Matt,
tested
you have to become a host.
Try that, Chris.
Yep, that looks like it's working for now. Perfect. Okay, so can you see the spreadsheet?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Perfect. So in the purple column is the CO2 levels, which they tested for. So all these numbers look great. Just for reference, the saturation or concentration of CO2 levels in outdoor air is about 450 parts per million to 480. So these numbers are completely right on target with that. Then you have a few columns here, which are just the room size calculations. And then if you move over to the green column, that is the actual CFM. So that is what they have measured with their devices inside those spaces. And as you can see, there's a couple columns that are blank here. That was what I have the finalized numbers from earlier this evening. So I can share those results when I get back into the office and take a look at the rest of that. And then our blue column, the next one over, is the minimum outdoor air rate. So this is what the ventilation calculation is based on the number of occupants in each space. So we went off an average of 15 occupants, and based on the calculation, which is number of occupants times 10 cubic feet per minute per occupant plus 0.12 times the square footage of the room. And that brings us to these numbers in that blue column. So with the exception of classroom 1, the rest of the rooms that were tested exceed that number. So that means we're bringing in what ASHRAE's standards are for minimum fresh air requirement for the spaces. Then that last column, the design CFM. So that is if we wanted to achieve 6 air changes per hour, which is what ASHRAE specifies for new buildings should be spec 2. This is what the CFM would need to be reading for those classrooms based on the 15 occupants. So you can see for most of those, we are under. Some of them, Wardboro is actually pretty close to hitting those 6 air changes an hour. And that's just based on those ASHRAE standards. So overall, Wardsboro is in very good shape considering the age of some of those systems. We do know that we have 3 air handling units that service 2 classrooms in the library, which are only pulling air from the attic. So the parts, the new replacement ERV has been ordered for that. And we're expecting about 10 to 12 weeks for that to come in. And then once that's installed, they can do the controls so we can have full control over the whole HVAC system. And there's some rebalancing we can do. So for example, on the spreadsheet here, classroom 1, the actual CFM is a little bit lower than what the ASHRAE or ventilation calculation should be based on the 15 occupants. You could rebalance the system a little bit and take some of the CFM from another room that's over the minimum rate and try to bump one up a little bit higher than the other one. So there are some other options, and we'll be discussing those with Alliance Mechanical about our next steps moving forward. And then so we'll talk about Dover next. So they're in a little bit of a different situation for Dover. So we're actually gonna be working a little bit backwards on the 3-phase approach. So Dover in the past had a control system set up, which at this point is outdated and had been obsolete. A few years back, a contractor came in and replaced all the old failing controls with standalone conventional thermostats for each of the rooms. And those thermostats only control the fan motor on and off and the heat valve. So there's no way to control the fresh air, outside air damper on any of the units. So we didn't want to do the air testing right away because we know if we can't control that to open, that we know we don't have any fresh air from those ERVs or unit ventilators. So we're going to start with the control system work there. And then that will allow us to be able to manipulate the system to get fresh air into the spaces. And then we can look at doing the upgrading for the rooftop fan units, which we know have been failed and those parts have been ordered. And then we can do our air testing at that point and see where we end up. So the controls work, Matt and I have a conversation with Alliance Mechanical tomorrow to discuss the implementation of that and how that's going to look like. And we're only anticipating a couple classrooms at a time being taken offline. This way there's not a disruption to the entire school. And that's expected to take about 2-3 months to complete. So we're hoping that all that will come to fruition before the end of that grant program, which is what our mechanical contractor originally said we can get all this work done in that time frame. So once the controls work's completed, the PM servicing and those other upgrades will all be coming together at the same time with the air testing. Unlike Wardsboro, which followed the phase 1, 2, 3 approach, Dover's going to pretty much be phase 1, 2, and 3 all together at the same time.
So I know you covered both Dover and Wardsboro together. So is there any questions on either of the reports? Go ahead, Mark, and then Tammy.
Chris, thank you for that. The Wardsboro ERV replacement, you said 10 to 12 week lead time. Are we hoping to get that in under the Efficiency Vermont grant, or is that going to be beyond December?
No, everything that we had spec'd out in the initial phase, which includes that ERV work, is all anticipated to be in and complete under the Efficiency Vermont grant.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Tammy.
So Chris, I think there might be some updated numbers on classroom 1. When Joe was here, he found, I think, like a damper that was closed or a spring that was broken.
Okay.
So I think maybe in the updated numbers, that classroom is actually probably looking a little bit better than it did when he initially did it. And that's why he did some digging and found that there was a repair that needed to be done.
Okay, perfect. That's even better. Like I said, I didn't have time to open up that spreadsheet and look at those numbers yet. I was just working on what they sent me last week. So if that's the case, then Wardsboro is in even better shape than we originally thought. And I can pull that up right now. So yeah, classroom 1, yeah, 249.84. or no, 474 is what they tested for class number. Actually, all the numbers are updated now, and they're look better than before. So I'll get that looked at tomorrow, and I can get that sent out and shared with everybody.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Matt, everybody good? Go ahead, Rick.
Just a bit of clarity, Chris, on the Wardsboro building. Your last column on your spreadsheet said that you wanted to get it up to new building manufacturer's specifications. Is that our goal here? I thought our goal was to get it to the original equipment manufacturer's specifications.
Yeah, so when we put together that report based on the AOE guidelines, they specified a few things. One is to get the systems operating under specifications of the manufacturer. And then for COVID, they also recommended that we look at getting a minimum of 6 air changes an hour in some spaces. And that's the new ASHRAE standard, which is based on new building construction to spec systems to that capacity. Efficiency Vermont, they already have told us that it's unlikely older systems are going to be able to reach that. They just were not sized. And in the past, I'm sure the standard's been upgraded over time. They're just not sized to reach that. So Efficiency Vermont, they actually sent us an email of what they recommended or their viewpoint on those ASHRAE standards. They're saying the 6 air changes per hour recommendation came from ASHRAE's design guidance for new construction projects. If Wyndham Central SU were building a new building, they would want to design their HVAC system for at least 6 air changes per hour. While we focus on improving indoor air quality this year, it certainly makes sense to maximize the air exchange rate where practical and feasible. However, achieving 6 air changes per hour with existing HVAC systems may not be practical, in which case it makes most sense to focus on the first priority specified by both ASHRAE and Harvard, which is ventilation. And that would be the second to last column that we looked at, which is that minimum outdoor air rate.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were being specific about what we were trying to reach. We're not a new building. We're not a new system. And I don't believe we could probably achieve that type of efficiency with the system that we have. So my question was more, are we talking about replacing an entire system as opposed to getting it up to the original manufacturer's specifications? So that answers that. The answer would be, we are not. Thank you.
Okay, if there's nobody else, Chris, I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll have another update come October 5th.
Thanks, Rich.
Executive Committee Weekly Update. Bill, can you do that, and then anything you have, because you're going to wind up having to leave us soon.
Sure. So we did not meet this Wednesday. Mr. Anton was out. But normally on Wednesdays, I meet with the chairs of each of the school boards, which makes up the executive committee of the WCSU board. And a good opportunity to cross-pollinate information about what is going on in different buildings and how it's working. So we do that every Wednesday. We'll meet again this Wednesday. We have finished a lot of the work at West River in preparing for a exploration of 15 different options and scenarios for their future planning. They have 4 buildings. They have 200 elementary students. They have 300 middle high school students. And in the spring, the board directed me and my central office team to explore a variety of options, looking out to the next 5 to 10 years of building operations. And so we were taking extra meetings a month, so I can let the River Valley board and community know that the first meeting of the month at River Valley's, I will now more regularly be attending, because those meetings have concluded at West River, and they are making some decisions this fall and getting prepared for how they're going to plan in 2021. Marlboro continues to do their hybrid opening. They are getting the same ventilation measurements that Wardsboro is getting. So they will be making a determination on how they're going to expand their opening once they receive those numbers. They're meeting on Thursday night to discuss that. Wyndham is running just like River Valley's in person 4 days a week. And our weekly call with the Secretary of Education, there are no major changes that are happening in the global Vermont environment of COVID. We did have 2 schools in the first 2 weeks of schools that had COVID cases connected to them. And it was a good example of how differently they can be handled based on the circumstances. In one case, it was a high school and it was a classroom that was needing to be isolated and shut down for a period of time. And in another situation, it was a middle school where there were larger number of contact tracing necessary and larger number of quarantines necessary. And so the school be shut down for a 9-day period. So just as a reminder, if any case comes across a River Valley school, the process is that the superintendent, along with the administrators of the building and the COVID coordinator and the nurse at the school, we work with the Vermont Department of Health to provide them the information that we know. They work on the contact tracing, and then they give us advice about what we should be doing in our particular case. And then we inform the board of what action we're taking based on the advice that we get from the Secretary of Education and the Vermont Department of Health. So that's kind of the update from the superintendent's office.
Any questions for the superintendent? Go ahead, Mark.
I think you mentioned when you first announced the meeting with the executive board that you were warning those meetings. Does that mean that they're open to the public?
They are warned, and they are warned meetings. So we take minutes and we post the agenda, and it's available.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nobody else, Bill, I think we're all set if you want to bail on us.
Thank you very much, everybody. Matt, Tammy, appreciate it.
Everybody wave bye, Bill. Next thing I have on the agenda is business principals report. Tammy, you get to go first.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. Since we met, last week, I don't have a lot to update you on, but I guess first off, week 2 sort of gave us a better idea of what a more typical school week would be like. Routines are being set and students are getting accustomed to the new protocols. And I feel like things are beginning to feel a little bit more normal and more like school. Last week, we welcomed students in our 3-year-old program for in-person instruction. So it was great to have our youngest learners with us. That was very exciting. As far as Wednesdays go, teachers are extremely appreciative of having the time for meeting with the remote learners, in addition to planning for both in-person and remote instruction simultaneously, as it's definitely a balancing act for them to do both, proving to be a little tricky. And all of the teachers this week have started assessments as part of the local common assessment system. And we're making a plan to accommodate assessments for those remote learners as well. And then lastly, we started our whole school STEAM challenge this week, which is to create a bubble wand from a pipe cleaner that will produce a square bubble. And the kids are convinced and pretty sure that it's impossible, but we'll see what they find, and maybe I will report back at our next meeting what they find out.
Okay, Matt.
So it's so cool to hear Tammy's report, because except for the bubble wand, it is identical to how the last week has gone at Dover. So I don't feel like I need to restate it. Teachers are having the same challenges with Wednesdays, trying to get to their remote kids. The routines are coming along. We welcomed 3-year-olds this past week. school structures. Food service is an ongoing work in progress, I think, it would be a good way to describe it. We learn something new every day that we're trying to do to improve that. And again, we also started our fall benchmarking. Teachers are using Wednesdays to meet individually with remote kids to do some of that stuff. And then we'll plan over the next week and a half to have some times when families can actually come to school, bring their child's school-issued Chromebook, and get it set up to actually take the Ames Web Fall Benchmark assessments outside on the picnic tables. That's the hope. Other than that, we're plugging along, and we're just hoping for that warm weather to hold on as long as it can.
Don't go out there, Matt. I got something for you. Matt, just I know last meeting there was, you were still struggling a little with food, getting the hot food over. Maybe talk about that in transportation, especially how it relates to high school and the mover and the career center and stuff. Can you just give us a 2-second update on that? 20-second update, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Tammy actually found some hot boxes that we ordered a pair of to try to keep the food warmer for longer as it gets transported over to Wardsboro. So hopefully those will be on hand this week so we can try them out. And then there's no change to the secondary bus run. We haven't collected any more data since last week. We do have quite a few families, it sounds like, that are using the mover. I don't have any new counts since last week. And I haven't heard from any other families about any problems with finding alternative transportation, but that just means they haven't called or emailed as far as I know.
I did have a chance to talk to Randy at the mover, and he did say they, I guess, ran the 2 buses, but they haven't found the need for it, and it seems to be pretty manageable because of the way they're doing it. But I just didn't know if you'd had any issues with parents, or if because the bus isn't going down on the east side, if more people are going to try to use that bus. So
yeah, I haven't heard anything, Rich, yet.
Okay, no, so hopefully we're going to be in good shape. Any questions from anybody for the principals?
Yeah, for both Tammy and Matt, any advanced thinking on the ski program for the winter? Whether it's going to happen or not?
I can answer that one.
Okay.
Hey, did you talk to them yet, Matt or Tammy?
So Lori O'Hearn has been reaching out to folks at the mountain to try to get some clarity on that. It sounds like they don't have any clarity right now. They may have something for us toward the end of the month or early next month, but there's nothing in stone. We would like to move our program to Wednesdays if we end up staying in 4x1 mode, so that we don't lose that instruction time on Thursdays. That put us down to 3.5 days of instruction a week for in-person learners. So that's something we're going to be looking into for this year. I did get a great email from one of our parents, Tara Adams, who works at Mount Snow. She works, I believe, in the adaptive program. And she had mentioned that the Dover Trail Committee has been working on some year-round trail work that might be available as an alternative to the ski program this winter, where they could encourage some snowshoeing, maybe some winter mountain biking. So we're pretty excited about that. That may be our option this year if we don't have the mountain, but we are kind of hoping that the relationship with the mountain will continue and that kids will get that opportunity to learn to ski and take those lessons.
Are you all set, Mark? Is that good?
Yes, all set. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the principals?
So I know anecdotally that Wardsboro is using outside time a little bit more this year with some of the classrooms. Is that happening at both schools? And can you guys share a little bit more of what's going on?
Sure. We are also using outside time at Dover. We've got a couple of outdoor classroom spaces set up that different grades can go to. We've got the picnic tables outside of each classroom. They're setting up kind of campfire-like circles where kids brought in camp chairs. And so it looks like a little campground in the backyard of the school, with the only thing we're missing are the fire rings. But it's nice and sunny out there, so they're catching it, a little bit of the heat, as long as it's, as long as the sun's coming through. So yes, I mean, I would say they're doing a lot more, as much as they can, with the outside to get the fresh air.
Tammy, can you answer Kate?
We definitely, all the classrooms are taking advantage of the outside much more than they have in the past. We were very fortunate, and if you get the Bucketville News, you will read an article that I wrote about a little project that we did here at Wardsboro. A bunch of families volunteered some time and developed a trail behind the school. In the back, we're calling it our little forest. And there's been a trail that's been made, as well as 3 additional outdoor classrooms with some stools. So the teachers are really taking advantage of that and using the outdoors as an extension of learning, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else from anybody that I see. Next thing for everybody. I believe there was an email that came around, and I don't remember who it went to, but I think that I'm drawing a blank on her name, from Wardsboro, who's helped us with our annual reports the last couple of years and helped us in our river meetings.
Anita.
Anita, thank you. She was not going to be able to do our annual report for us this year, that she was going to be concentrating on some other projects and doing some personal stuff. And Jennifer's laughing because she's going to say, I'm going to volunteer. Did you see that email too? Or okay.
I think that was just to you and me, Rich.
Okay. So there was an email then. I wasn't dreaming it. So I'm dreaming a lot of school board stuff lately, folks. So I think I just bring it up because she's done, I think, a really good job, and I think it's really helped us a lot to get the word out about what we're doing and what's happening in the schools. And I just don't know. I'm not sure if that's just something we can take on internally, or if we need to find somebody, or if we maybe want to talk to Randy Capitani at the newspaper. And I'll get to you one sec, Mark. But just that we have, I just want to start thinking about it now, because I don't want to come into January, February and not have a plan. So I don't know who exactly it falls on, but it is a report that the board is going to use, and when we go to school district meeting to sell the budget. So I just want to get that out there. Go ahead, Mark.
So I've spoken to Anita about this, not recently, but in the past. She'd be willing to give me her template, and I'd be willing to pull everything together as long as I didn't have to do any writing.
I think the reports all come from in-house.
Yeah.
Did Anita write anything?
I honestly don't remember.
I don't think so. Rick, do you remember? I think it's all came from like the board and from the administration and whatnot, didn't it? Mark's gonna look in his book.
I don't have it with me out here.
But again, it's not a decision we have to make tonight, but I just, so Mark, maybe if you can get that, and let's just see how difficult you think it's going to be and what's required in there. I know we want to make some changes last year. We had mentioned some things to make the budget a little more spread out, so it's a little bit more legible, and maybe even adding, if we add a page, it has to be 4 pages. So just start thinking of that. You know, I had to scrape my windshield this morning. It was 30 degrees at our place, so which I'm sure a lot of y'all had to in the valley. So it's you know, it's getting time to start thinking about budgets and stuff. Any other that's all we have under new business unless I missed something. I don't have any executive session items, but Matt, I guess we're gonna have one for the next meeting. And we'll get that out for October 5th. Will we do that? Let's try to schedule that if we can, maybe, you know, again, before the meeting for an hour. October 5th, we have the next River Valley meeting at 6 with a hearing at 5. Will an hour be enough time for you, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be fine, Rich.
And then we did, Matt and Tammy, you guys have posted those policies that we discussed at the last meeting that we approved to post, correct? I'm going to want to see the paperclip hole. I mean, the push pin hole. Make sure they're official. October 13th, we have a WCSU meeting about VSBA resolutions. Mark, were you going to be able to get them out ahead of time? I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, Bill sent out, or he forwarded an email earlier today. I can also send you the PDF to send to everybody.
If you would, please. I didn't get it. So.
Okay.
And then October 28th, we have a WCSU meeting for budget compensation and superintendent evaluation. Mark, are you good for those 2 dates for the WCSU?
I am, yes.
And Rick, you're our other representative. Are you all good with those dates? If you can't make it, just let us know at the next meeting. We can appoint a temporary person and take your place. Unless we're totally messed up, or Matt, there's any comments anywhere that I'm missing?
All clear.
Mark says it's time to leave. He was yawning into his hand for me. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And
I'm just cold.
oh, no, I meant Mark Fermel. I noticed he was yawning.
Okay.
So he's the only one who's online or that I can see. Now he went away on me. Peter, you all good? Okay, so
yeah, I'm here, Rich. I'm here.
No,
Yeah,
I saw you yawning, so I figured we were boring. It was time for us to leave.
No, I have some questions, and I guess they're probably not appropriate to ask. You know, I always have a lot of questions, so maybe I'll call you later on and we'll discuss them or something.
Okay, give me a holler.
All right.
Going home to watch football. Thanks. No.
That's what I'm about to do.
Okay. Laura, everybody all set? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn
Kate moved to adjourn.
6:50 p.m.
Laura, are you seconding the motion?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Don't forget, I'll trade him for a puppy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you all 2 weeks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.